the next questioners if they could leave a little bit of time at the end of their questioning for the minister to make her closing remarks. It'll be appreciated. Having said that, we'll recognize for the next hour the honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that I have an hour. That's correct, or an hour minus a couple minutes for the minister. Okay, and I'm also going to give some time to the member for Cape Breton Richmond at towards the end of my time.
It'll just depend on how long the minister is. That's all.
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead.
Okay. So I want to start my second round of questions talking about film and television. So the Nova Scotia Film Incentive Fund was moved from Inclusive Economic Growth to CCH. Does the $25 million that's in the budget include the fund's administration? That's my first question.
The Honourable Minister.
Okay. I have a little bit more to answer in your last question when you signed off before. Did you want that information, Ms. LeBlanc, or just your new question?
Member?
Thank you. I think I'm going to come back to it. So if you want to hang on, I just want to get these other questions in, and then I'll come back around there.
Okay. The financial piece with the film industry is going to remain at the Department of Business for now. They're not going to be. We're going to do a transitioning, but you won't lose anything. Everything will remain pretty much the same.
Member for Dartmouth North.
Okay, so that 25 million, just clarifying that that's entirely incentive fund dollars?
Yes.
Minister?
Yes, it's entirely the fund. Yeah. Yes.
And SBI.
Yeah, and SBI administers.
Okay.
I believe
For
that was
for clarification, NSBI is the administrators. They fall under the Department of Business. And just a minute. Okay. And yes, it's 25 million. It comes with the department. And I think we spoke to it with the balancing of where money went. It seems like we're spending less money, but we're not, because we transferred the transit out and a couple others.
Right.
the member for Dartmouth North.
Okay, so I guess I have a lot of film questions, and normally I would ask those to the Department of Business, but since we prepared them for tonight, since the budget line is in CCH, so are you prepared to answer questions about film and television?
Minister?
I'll do my best. We're still in transitioning, so you know, I may have to defer to getting answers to you at a later date.
Member?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just start with them then. So, since the Liberal government canceled the film tax credit in 2015, Nova Scotia has failed to take advantage of the Netflix production growth, calling it Netflix production growth in quotes, over the past several years. The local actor agency has closed, or did close, their office in July. They have just recently opened back up again in Dartmouth North, as a matter of fact. But that was because of lack of business for local talent, along with a dramatic contraction in the pool of actors in the province. Investments in the film industry through production incentives or film infrastructure elicit returns to the Nova Scotia economy many times over through year-round employment and benefits to rural communities. Initially, Nova Scotia saw a boom in film production this year as it was considered a safe place to resume filming during COVID-19. But as filming has begun to resume across North America, productions look to Canada as a whole over the US, and industry reps are worried that Nova Scotia will once again lose out due to the absence of a competitive incentive fund, a modern sound stage, and crew shortages. I understand that there's been a 5-year sunset and review of the incentive fund from yes, that has happened with Screen Nova Scotia. So I'm wondering if you can talk about what took place in that analysis and what the outcome was.
The Honorable Minister.
I thank the member for that question, and we are aware of the challenges that you mentioned, and the 25 million is being used, and we do have members in our department who have a good relationship with Screen Nova Scotia, and that will only grow, I'm sure, with the film industry moving to our department. And I haven't met with anyone myself from Screen Nova Scotia, but because we are still in estimates, and when the House rises, I hope to meet key players in that organization and get to know them a little better. And we are really looking forward to having them over at the department. And much of our digital work and funds are with filmmakers, and we want to continue our relationship with Screen Nova Scotia, so I can just see things getting better.
Member?
Okay, thanks. So I'm sorry.
I really can't speak to the details that you were asking for because we are still just transitioning.
Member?
So I take it from that, then you haven't read the Sunset Review report. So I guess my question is then, will you commit to reading it as soon as possible and meeting with Screen Nova Scotia as soon as possible?
Minister?
Yes, I did indicate that I would be, when the House rises, setting up a meeting with Screen Nova Scotia. And I look forward to reading the report.
Great, and I'm sure that another thing that you will hear about in your meeting with Screen Nova Scotia is the lack of a modern soundstage, which is a key barrier to Nova Scotia's fair share of production. Screen Nova Scotia is working on a proposal, or reworking a proposal for funding to create a community interest company to establish a working and accessible soundstage in Dartmouth. The proposal is in draft form, but will likely be looking for investment from Invest Nova Scotia of around $1 million over 3 to 4 years to cover marketing and operational losses before the soundstage could become self-sufficient. I'm wondering if any of that ask is in the budget or is being planned for.
Minister?
Thank you for the question. No, it is not. It's not reflected in the budget this year, but we're happy to look at all projects as much as more details are available. So I'm sure it will be coming across my desk sooner than later.
The member for Dartmouth North.
Great, thank you very much. We have seen a steady outflow of skilled film and television crew since the cancellation of the film tax credit in 2015. And it's vital that we rebuild a healthy and growing crew base in partnership with the film sector, colleges, university, film unions, and guilds. Wondering if there's anything being done on this front right now, and if there's anything in the budget earmarked for it.
Minister?
Thank you for the question. No, there's nothing specific in the budget, but government is working as a whole to recruit and retain professionals in the film industry. Again, we'll learn more when we meet with Screen Nova Scotia later. And all of our programs here at CCH can help create a livable province where people want to stay and work. So that includes members of the film industry. So we're looking forward to working with them.
The member for Dartmouth North.
Well, that's great to hear, because I'll tell you, it was a real shock to the province's system when so many young, family-oriented professionals left the province because their work dried up overnight. So hopefully, if the government is interested in attracting those people back, there will be some good conversations with Screen Nova Scotia and some meaningful investment in the film industry, and get back on track, take advantage of the amazing content creation that's happening right now. I just want to move on to ask a couple questions about African Nova Scotian affairs. I'm just going to check my time here. I'd like to talk a little bit about the Count Us In strategy. The strategy is a remarkable and trailblazing document that cements pathways to an equitable future, initiated by the United Nations Decade for the People of African Descent, and the important work that Nova Scotia is doing on this front. I want to be clear that folks at African Nova Scotian Affairs are doing incredible and needed work, but they may need better support in implementing the plan. Indeed, it requires all of government to move this work along. One of the key criticisms of the Count Us In strategy was that there's no additional funding attached to the work of implementing it. Again, this year, African Nova Scotian Affairs does not have a significant increase in funding to do the work of implementing the plan. So my first question is, what is the minister's response to this criticism of a lack of funding to go along with the excellent plan?
The Honorable Minister.
Thank you for the question, Ms. LeBlanc. It's just not an answer. Just not ANSA's plan. This is an all government department plan. So that's why you probably don't see a dedicated line, but I may add that there's an additional $200,000 dollars that comes from CCH through the Cultural Innovation Fund, and that's our contribution. But all departments will be playing a role in this plan. So I think Minister Ince can speak more to it than me. But all Nova Scotians, we are all responsible to help making this work, and so that African Nova Scotians feel fully included in the province and in all facets of our society.
The Honorable Member.
Well, I thank the minister for her answer, and I do understand that it is, and one of the great things about the plan is that it would work beyond the silos of government departments, and as I mentioned in the House last week or the week after or week before, one of an example of that was the bill around land titles initiatives, which was sponsored by a number of departments. I love seeing that. But nonetheless, ANSA is housed currently underneath CCH. That's my understanding, or as part of CCH. And so our caucus made a FOIPOP request, which revealed an alarming number of initiatives under the Countersin strategy that have not a single government action attached to them. So I'm going to give you some examples. So one is facilitate consideration of the impact of race and culture in connection with criminal justice proceedings. Another one is research environmental issues affecting African Nova Scotian communities, such as the location of landfills and contaminated lands, and recommend appropriate actions. Another one is promoting opportunities for African Nova Scotians in the agricultural sector through education, mentorships, and support for social enterprises such as community-supported agriculture. Encouraging community development organizations to connect province-wide so they can share ideas and build partnerships and support rehabilitation of community halls and public spaces in historic African Nova Scotian communities. So I'm giving you some of those examples because they show that that the strategy connects to so many government departments. So my question for the minister is, what is the minister, as Minister of Communities, Culture and Heritage, doing to ensure that her caucus colleagues are implementing these critical elements of the strategy?
Minister.
I thank the member for the question. The responsibilities lie here in the department with we now have established a deputies ministers committee to lead this work and to seek support from their ministers and also staff. I'd like to take time to also say that their senior officials group has been established to deal with this as well. So it's not just staying at the deputy level, but it'll also senior staff will be included in this. And I'd like to take time to speak to some of the things that we're doing here at CCH. We're doing a lot of staff and training, and we started out with our own people here at CCH. there was diversity training that took place among our staff that was available online and during work hours. So we had a lot of people signing up for that. Our, you know, I'd like to note that our executive and senior leadership teams are led by African Nova Scotians. So they're bringing a lot of knowledge and skill and a great lens on what we are planning to do and how we initiate it. And I'm sure the feedback from them will be invaluable for the department and all the staff. Staff across all departments really do recognize the importance of this work, and they're really on board to change these things. And you know, part of it is with providing grants to marginalized communities across the different sectors. And we are looking at applications in our work and really putting on that lens. We'll be working together with the Office of Citizen-Centered Approaches and the new Office of Equity and Anti-Racism. And equity has been part of the, we think, a key piece in all of this. And it has been left out before, but it is very much now in the scope of what we are doing and part of our goals. In 2019, with the launching of the Count on Us program, which was launched as part of our plan to respond to the International Decade for People of African Descent. And this is to advance anti-racism actions and support in areas of recognition, justice, and development. CCH and ANSA continue to advance the work of the Lands Titles Act, and you spoke of that yourself. You know, that this is an ongoing project. It involves several departments, like you said, and so we're getting more cooperation from different departments and working together. And we continue to help provide clear land titles for 5 communities here in Nova Scotia, and I understand there are more waiting to go forward in future years. I'm sure Minister Ince can even speak further to all these details. We do house the department within our department, but Minister Ince is the minister.
Member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you very much for that. Before his retirement and accompanying his apology to the African Nova Scotian community, the former premier announced a design team that was intended to address systemic racism in the justice system. Is African Nova Scotian Affairs connected to that work? And what update can the minister provide on the work of that design team? And when can we expect an update or a report on it?
Minister?
forward to see. Thank you for waiting. Premier Rankin has made equity a key priority for this government. However, I've not been involved at all in the work of this. So I would really defer this to Minister Ince or the Minister of Justice, and they could give you more details on how they are moving forward.
Member?
Thank you. Moving on from African Nova Scotian affairs, you may know, Minister, that Dartmouth lakes are at risk. Last summer was another summer where Dartmouth lakes were plagued with toxic algae blooms, clogged with invasive weeds. And obviously, this situation has serious impacts for the recreational activities that take place on Lake Banook, including international boating competitions. If it hadn't been for COVID, Dartmouth Lake Banook would have been hosting the Indigenous Games. Next year, we're supposed to be hosting the World Canoeing Paddling Championships. So we need our lakes to be in good order for the massive amounts of people who will be competing and coming to watch those competitions. Wondering what your department is doing to address the issue of the toxic algae blooms and invasive weeds in the lakes.
Minister?
Really, that question is not part of our mandate. It's probably something you want to take up with the Department of Environment. That's where I sent it when I had that question at my constituency office.
Member, with about 25 minutes left, keeping in mind that allowing time for the minister to make her closing remarks and motion. Member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Now, I did take it up with the Minister of Environment, or the former Minister of Environment, and I absolutely plan to take it up with the current Minister of Environment. But respectfully, respectfully to the Minister, I would say that it very much has to do with your department, considering your department, or the Department of Communities, Culture and Heritage, is responsible for sport and recreation in this province. And Lake Banook is a valuable asset to sport and recreation in this province, and it attracts, as I said, international competition and much, much investment in this province. So I encourage you, if you'd like, I can loop you in to the conversation with the Minister of Environment, but the situation must be addressed. And again, wouldn't it be wonderful if it could be addressed across the silos of departments, and that many departments that are involved in the protection of such assets could work together on that. I'd also like to ask a question about the new art gallery. I'm wondering if you could provide, or the minister could provide, an updated timeline for the project of the art gallery, and what the current expected cost is, and when it will appear on the books.
Minister.
Okay.
Thank you for the question. Many of us are very excited about this project moving forward. It's an art gallery for all of Nova Scotia. Though it's located on the waterfront in Halifax, it is called the Nova Scotia Art Gallery, and it will be for all Nova Scotians. So planning is underway for this modern art gallery on the waterfront, and we hope that it will attract visitors from all around the world. And a design team has been chosen, and public engagement will soon be starting. In the next couple of months, you should see information going out about that. A large capital funding campaign is underway currently for the new art gallery to support their efforts to raise $30 million for the project. The Sobeys Foundation, I think that was well before Christmas, donated $10 million to get this campaign going. And we are so appreciative of that donation. In the next few months, the gallery will launch a public engagement process that will help further shape the final design. Through this process, we hope to create a place that is reflective of the diversity of our province, while also ensuring that the space functions properly for the art gallery and for Nova Scotians. The proposed construction date is the fall of 2021. And as the building is under construction, the expenses will appear on the province's financial statements.
Member?
Great, thank you very much for that. Free admission for galleries and museums is a practice that is used in many parts of the world. When I spent time in England, I was so amazed to be able just to walk into any museum and gallery and not pay a cent and experience all of what they had to offer. And it happens not just in England, but in lots of other countries. I'm wondering if the department has considered this as an approach to our museums and galleries in Nova Scotia.
Minister?
Thank you for the question. The goal of our department and of the Art Gallery in Nova Scotia is to make art more accessible to Nova Scotians, period. The gallery is considering different models, and that's ongoing. People will have some say in it, and there can be expressions of concern or ideas that people can move forward at that time during the public engagement that I spoke to in your previous question.
Member?
Thank you very much to the minister for all of her answers tonight. I'm going to give the rest of my time to the member for Cape Breton Richmond, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Just want to remind that member to leave a little bit of time as well for the minister to make her closing remarks and motion. Recognize the member for Cape Breton Richmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And perhaps, Mr. Chair, you can let me know how much time is left so that I can make note.
If you don't mind, I think what I'll do is ask the minister now how much time she plans on taking up.
Could you read my lips? 3 minutes would be great.
Okay, thank you. The honourable member for Cape Breton Richmond.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, I'm counting on you to give me my 2-minute warning.
I'll do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister. I want to formally congratulate you. I know I did in person, but just wanted on record that I want to formally congratulate you on your ministerial role. I'm sure it's one that you'll greatly enjoy. I think it's probably one of the best departments as far as enjoyable, giving out grants and going to all these wonderful events, cultural events, and so forth. I wanted to ask you in particular some questions with regard to the Community Museum Assistance Program that had been available. And I know that there were quite a few museums in my community. I was blessed with having the Nicholas Denny Museum, the Lenoir Forge Museum, and of course, the Almadam Historical Society takes care of that, but also the McCaskill House Museum as well. And I know that it couldn't have happened at a worse time. We're going into COVID-19 only months later, and the grants that had been available through Community Museum Assistance Program were not made available again in 2020. As I understand, there's kind of a revamping going on of that grant program, but unfortunately it left a lot of these museums in the lurch this past year. And I think some of them had even gone through an extensive process prior to applying and didn't realize that the grant hadn't been available. Could you please inform me with regard to where we are and how we're going to move forward? It's going to become available again in the near future.
Minister.
Thank you for your kind words on my position, and it's good to have you questioning. There has been no change to the CMAT program at all. The grants went out last year, so perhaps you need to have conversation with your museums because they would have received their funding.
The member for Cape Breton Richmond.
Thank you, Minister. As I had understood, there was at least one that hadn't received theirs. So perhaps it's just that one museum that hadn't received theirs. But in the notations, I had been advised that there was a bit of a revamping going on here. So if not, that's great. And if they're going to be available again this year, super.
Would
I
you
do
be
know.
able to let the department know? You don't have to say it here, but you could contact the department and let us know what facility it was so that we can take a look into that. But we'd appreciate knowing that.
Member.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Absolutely, I will do that. And thank you for offering and putting that out there. The other program that I know quite a few, especially of course with COVID-19, there were a lot of community halls and the fire halls, the community halls, as well as the Lions halls that were really put into a very awkward position with not being able to do their fundraising as they once did during COVID. And I do know that the your department makes available the Community Facilities Investment Grant to be able to help with siding and roofs and so forth. But was there anything else that was made available to these community halls during COVID-19 from the province to be able to facilitate with their overhead, their operating costs?
Minister.
Thank you for the question. Wow, our community halls are booming places, and we seem to all have several in our constituencies in rural Nova Scotia, and they are so important. And as you said, they are run by volunteers, often people who've been in that community for some time. And they're sometimes they've been old schoolhouses and or old churches that closed. Some have taken over their halls and made them into community centers, and they are very important to keeping the social life of those communities going. Um, we did not do any kind of funding there for the community halls during this period. There may have been other departments that had resources, but not ours. But I know several of my community halls were funded by received support through their municipalities. And so you might want to check and see if they did get some funding through their municipalities. That was one of the big sources. But many of them still continued to do fundraising projects. A lot of them went online and had auctions and 50-50 draws and all sorts of different types of fundraising. So they were able to still keep the lights and the heat on. And I think some were quite successful with that.
Member?
Thank you, Minister. Yeah, our community halls are truly the heart of our communities. I know as far as the fundraising efforts, we have a very healthy Chase the Ace community of halls that participate in that. But I also know that the Hungry Man breakfast and the community dinners that usually happen to be able to help with the fundraising efforts haven't been able to occur this year. And it's really put a lot of these halls in some very precarious positions because they still have to pay for their heat. They still have to pay, obviously, for all of their overhead. So it would have been great to be able to see some assistance coming from the province. And as I understand, there hadn't been anything else available to them other than to the Legions with assistance that came in through the federal government. If I could just ask, with the Community Museum Assistance Program, going back to that for a moment, what is going to be available funding-wise? How much money are we looking at for this year?
Minister?
Oh, thank you for the question. I just want to go back to Legions. We did fund Legions, and we always do. There was $100,000, but we ended up spending 110. 100 was in the budget. We gave 110 to the command, and the command oversees the distribution of those funds. And we also did an additional $75,000 for Legions. So they did receive funding, and that is not federal money. That is province of Nova Scotia money. Our taxpayers' money, doing good things. And I just want to let you know the amount of money for the CMAP Museum Assistant Program was $978,100, and it's the same amount as the previous year.
Member?
Thank you, Minister, for your response. I'd love to be able to ask this question. If that type of money, which is so needed for our Legions, and I'm very pleased to hear that it was made available to them. If funding was available to our community Legions, perhaps the minister might be able to explain to me why funding would not have been made available to the other community centers, community halls, Lions Hall, and others.
Minister?
Well, we still had our regular funding that we do for community facilities, and that was very active and taken up last year. And a lot of our community halls also apply for accessibility grants and other types of funding. So we did fund them, but we just didn't have special COVID funding.
Member, you have 2 minutes left.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I thank the minister for her response. Again, I'm just going to put it out there because I know I received so many calls, and I would imagine that the minister likely received some calls herself from her own community. Just the community halls, basically, that, you know, you always have halls that maybe do a little bit better and others that are smaller, and other sections of the community that perhaps don't have quite, you know, the same bank account or access to the same resources. And I guess I would just like to ask the minister, what was the rationale behind not responding to a call for assistance in the carrying of the overhead in these small community halls?
Minister?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to clarify and make certain that I'm familiar with the community facilities investment grants. I'm specifically speaking about COVID-19 related funding that wasn't made available.
Some of our community halls that are run by nonprofit organizations could qualify for some funding. We were funding nonprofits who applied. So you might need to check to see who did and who didn't.
Okay, thank you. We'll now call on the minister for her closing remarks and to make a motion. I apologize for cutting the member off for Cape Breton Richmond, but
that's okay.
Time is of the essence.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank the member for allowing me the 3 minutes. I just want to say that I am really happy to be the Minister of Community, Culture and Heritage. I feel like it's a dream come true for me. It's for someone who's been a longtime volunteer and worked in many of the sectors that we deal with here at Community, Culture and Heritage, or fall under our umbrella. I've worked in those sectors, or I've been a volunteer. So I feel I have a background of knowledge that comes with this portfolio. But it's when I got the position, I've heard the media writing, oh, it's a junior position, it's not an important department. Well, let me tell you, it's a very important department. The staff in my department are as professional as they are in any other department. They work as hard as any other staff in any of the departments. They are well educated. They are great communicators with our partners and stakeholders. They work hard. They are diligent. They spend long hours at the department. I know, because there's nights that some are there when I'm there late, and some are there long before I'm there in the mornings, and they're late at night too. So I am so grateful for the wonderful staff that I work with. It's a wonderful department, and I cannot believe all the work that was put in from our department during the COVID situation. Much of the distribution of money that helped Nova Scotians from the tip of Cape Breton to the back part of Yarmouth, Cape Firshu. We distributed money to needy people. We helped people who were in great need. And this has been something that no one expected. It came on us so quickly, but this department really jumped into action, and our staff has been incredible through this all. So when I take exception to anyone who says it's not a full department or it's not an active department. It's a great department. There are great people working here. I'm proud to be the minister, and I hope to continue to be the minister for some time. So with that, Mr. Chair, resolved that the sum not exceeding 117,098,000 be granted to the Lieutenant Governor to defray expenses in respect of the Department of Communities, Culture, and Heritage pursuant to the estimate. And I'd like to thank my staff here who have supported me through these last 5 hours, and an hour a week ago. We had a whole week to sit on this. So, and I thank you, Mr. Chair, for chairing the estimates for CCH and all those who participated.
Thank you. You have heard the motion. Would all those in favor show your consent by saying aye? Contrary minded?
Aye.
Or wave your hand. Contrary minded, nay. The motion is carried. So that concludes community cultures and heritage for this round of questioning. So our next meeting will be with the Department of Education. And everybody will be getting their notice. And I'm talking out the clock here because I'm waiting till right now to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all. Have a great evening.